So my discovery call is very important. So usually I'm able to sift out issues, right? So bad Pedro, you and I are having a conversation. Typically I'm going to sift that out and decide not to work with you. If you can't be, if you're not open to listening to what my expertise.
Welcome to Success Leaves Clues, the podcast where we interview business owners on how they built their businesses and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is David Wynn, and I'm a business coach and the founder of Purple Circle, where we help business owners achieve their first 6-figure, 7-figure, and 8-figure year, all without sacrificing their quality of life. Before becoming a business coach and before founding Purple Circle, I started and scaled several 7- and 8-figure coaching businesses and have been a consultant at several businesses doing over $100 million each, including some that are publicly listed and doing over $1 billion each. In every episode of the podcast, you're going to learn lessons that took our guests years to learn, and you'll be able to learn that in minutes. No matter if you're a new business owner or an established business owner, every episode is going to give you the clues in order to elevate your business.
Welcome to Success Leaves Clues podcast. I'm Pedro, and today I'm joined by Kirstin Purcell, founder of Handshake and Heels, who spent 13 plus years watching the same frustrating disconnect play out on both sides of the hiring table. Companies struggling to find the right talent, while candidates were left in the dark about what was really happening behind the scenes. Kirstin built Handshake and Heels specifically to pull back the curtain on the hiring process, bringing clarity and strategy to both employers and job seekers in a space that desperately needed both. Her work spans retained search, fractional recruiting partnerships, leadership workshops, and workforce strategy development, all grounded in one simple truth: the right people change everything. Welcome to the show, Kirstin.
Thank you.
Okay. Great to have you. Excited to record with you. And I am kind of a comic book nerd myself, right? So I love the first editions, the origin story and all what that entails. So let's rewind a bit, because every coach has that moment where they look at their life and say, yeah, I guess this is what I'm doing now, right? So when was that for you, Kirstin?
So it was in 2019, I realized that there was something missing. There was a disconnect between what the candidates were being told as to why they weren't getting an interview or why they weren't being selected for a position, and the hiring managers. So nobody was giving that feedback, so a candidate would miss out on a job and just get a generic thank you, but no thank you email, right? We've all gotten those before when we've applied to positions. And so I didn't like that. I said, how is that helpful, right? How is that helping someone grow or do better or know, what to do and what not to do? So that's when I decided to start Handshake and Heels, to really pull back the curtain and give that behind the scenes look at, hey, here's some, feedback that can ultimately change the trajectory of your job search.
Okay. Now, can you expand? I'm very curious about the name. I think that's, first of all, I think it's hilarious. Okay. And I love the story behind names. So can you expand a little bit on that? The Handshake and Heels, I can have the full picture.
Sure. So I actually have a degree in fashion merchandising. But my love of shoes, in particular high heels, started when I was, walking pretty much. And so the handshake is your first impression, right? And then I'm always in high heels. So it's the handshake in the heels, which is me. I'm the handshake in the heels.
Yeah, I was looking at the company name. I'm thinking Devil Wears Prada immediately.
One of my favorite movies. Yes.
I was like, what's happening here? Right? Nice. Okay. Now, let me dig in a little deeper here on what we sometimes call it like a pivot or the change, big shift that happened in your life. We're talking about 13 years in the game, right? And 7 in your own business on Handshake and Heels. Can you walk us through that shift from, employer to business owner? Because sometimes in the early days for coaches, we're testing waters, right? We're like, I'm a coach myself too. So we're like, oh, let's see if this is going to land. How does that look like? And you start giving advice, helping people. But eventually you realize, okay, I'm building a real business around this, right? I'm not sure how that played out for you, but I would love for you to, walk us through that shift in your career, turning yourself into a business owner, please.
Sure. So I think so what happened was so career, in staffing, and then I moved over to corporate recruitment. So I was actually working and running my business at the same time, which I think is a lot of times, what coaches do, how they start out. And so I got on a phone call, just a random. I think it was a couple days before Halloween, actually, or a week or so before. It was in October 2024, and I get on a call, and all of a sudden, HR gets on the call, and I've lost my job. So I don't know. I still don't know if they fired me or let me go. I don't know, but I was not prepared. Right. So I kind of went into mode of fight or flight. So I was like, well, I've been working handshake and heels and trying to get that off the ground at the same time, working a corporate job that helps me, gives me that security net, and pays the bills while I'm trying to build something for my future, my family's future. And so I said, well, now's as good a time as any, I guess, So, and I'm all about everything happens for a reason and signs and all of that stuff, right? So I just said, well, who knows? If that rug didn't get pulled out from under me unexpectedly, who knows if I would have ever had the courage to make that jump? Because it's scary. You have no idea if you're going to succeed. You have no idea. You go from a stable paycheck to, I don't know where my mortgage payment's coming from. I don't know. I don't know what's happening. So that's where it shifted for me. It was like a slow motion moment for myself where I was like, okay, what's next? I started to write down a to-do list, to figure things out. And I just did it. Made some phone calls to some people that were already in, the coaching space, had their own business. Okay, what do I need to know? This is what just happened. Let me just start checking things off the list and get it done. And I did. And it's terrifying, but exciting. And I'm definitely doing what I was supposed to do. I all along knew I was going to be an entrepreneur, have my own business, and it just kind of, my timeline got sped up a little bit for me. So, but yeah, and then here we are. So, yeah.
Nice. Okay. Now, after you got rolling, because you were part-time in your business, and then we're setting up the standards for a full-time position, which you're currently at, as a founder of your business. I'm thinking, right? After you got rolling, who are the people that kept showing up? Because in the early days, sometimes, not saying it's your case, but we're trying to help everyone. We're just, as you mentioned, mortgage, we have bills to pay. And sometimes you're like, let's try to make this work. But eventually, we sharpen the blade, and we kind of happen to have like that certain type of people that we attract,
Yes.
what I mean?
Yes.
So I would love for you to walk us through the evolution of who you started serving and who do you serve now?
Yeah. So it started off when I first started Handshake and Heels, it was candidates. So candidate focused. So people looking for jobs. That was my main focus, helping with resume writing, interview prep, giving the behind the scenes help to those that were, on the job market and searching for a position. And then it has evolved since into, I still do that. That is still an aspect of my business because that's why I started my business in the first place. I'll never give that up just because I feel like it's something that's needed, and it's not given to candidates to have that edge, against competition. So, but now I help companies hire better and then retain their employees. So more like consulting, coaching internally for businesses.
So right now we're talking about both, right? We have a B2C component and a B2B, yes, but you're more focused in B2B, if I got it right.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
There's
So,
kind of something for everyone, just depending on what somebody wants. So it's on both sides of the form there. So it's, candidates, companies. And if there's a company I know looking for a position and I have a candidate, great. Matchmaking. That's my background, recruitment, So there's that component as well, the fractional recruitment and piece too. So it works out very well. And I also have
mhm.
relationships with staffing agencies. So, if a client is looking for a specific person, I'll reach out to my partners in the staffing world, to match them up there. But yeah, so it works really well. Figuring out what a company is needing. So doing like a hiring audit, if you will. I know that sounds kind of financy, but but coming in and figuring out, what their issue is. Are you having a problem attracting your talent? Your employees? Are you having a problem hiring? Meaning, are you not asking the right interview questions? To figure out and really sift out if somebody's a good fit for the company, or are you having an issue keeping your employees? Are they leaving? So figuring out which bucket, to kind of attack and go in and help the companies fix. And then if it comes to recruitment, great. That's my, where I started. So then there's that recruitment aspect where then I pull in the candidates that either I've been helping, I have in the pipeline, or my staffing partners, I'll have them do a search for me if I don't have somebody on my bench.
Yeah, I can definitely see the synergy. It's almost like how you
Yeah.
got a peek behind the curtain of both sides, which is like very powerful. As I'm thinking right now, I'm spinning my wheels here. Okay. Now, let's do kind of a game of pretend here, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Okay. Let's pretend I am a owner of a business. I want to talk about the B2B side. Okay. I think that's very interesting. So I'm your ICP there. Okay. So can you walk, like, first of all, let's talk marketing, right? How would I be able to find you? You know?
So I'm active on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. So that's kind of where I'm doing my marketing and spreading, my business around. Locally, I do things around, I'm in Fredericksburg, Virginia, serving the DC, Maryland area, also national. So I can do, pretty much if it's depending what a company wants, right? And I travel to client sites and stuff all the time. So, but yeah, so Facebook, it is my name, Kirstin Purcell, and Instagram, it's Handshake and Heels, and then LinkedIn, it's my name, Kirstin Purcell.
Okay. So still in the same game. Okay. Let's say I saw what you got out there, social media, right? You mentioned Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or even those local meetings or anything like that. Even yeah, I know you mentioned Fredericksburg, but also national and all that. So let's pretend whatever you got out there resonated with me. Okay. I'm like, Handshake and Heels sounds like a cool business. They can help me. I reach out. Okay. And we can speed up the sales process, really up to you. We could say there is alignment, or if you want to add something there, it's totally fine. But what I really want is to have a little peek behind the curtain. Okay. An understanding of how it is to work with your business and the outcomes I can expect.
Sure. So if you're my client, or you've seen maybe some reels and posts that I've posted, then, you reach out. What I would do, my first question would be, what is your biggest issue in your business? A lot of times it's people. 9 times out of 10, I've got people problems, right? So then I'm figuring out and kind of do a consultation, an initial, discovery call, if you will, and figuring out, okay, where does the issues lie? Is it attracting? Is it hiring? Is it retaining your people? Where is your people problem? So doing a quick assessment of that, then what I do for companies is that official hiring audit. So discovery call is complimentary, of course. And then I do offer a hiring audit that I'm coming in I'm having more conversations with stakeholders, with leaders, really diving in and figuring out where the problem is. If I'm able to, I prefer coming on site so then I can just observe and see what's going on, and then be able to write out a detailed report and give that report to the business owner, and let them know, hey, this is what's going on, and then here's how we can fix it, if you want to continue this relationship. So the hiring audit is, yes, it's, you have to pay for that. That's a lot. It's a lot of work. But then you actually, if you don't want to continue and you just want to kind of do things on your own, you've got a blueprint where, okay, here's the problems. Let me see if I can fix it, but 10 times out of 10, they'll call me and say, okay, I tried to fix it. I can't. You're the expert. Please help. And
Right.
I'm glad to. So.
Okay. Same scenario. I have some questions. The first one is like, well, the people problem, that's a complex one. And I'm picturing in my head, I'm your ICP, and I'm like, I know I have a problem, Kirstin, okay? But I'm unsure on how to pinpoint. Like, I know there is a little, some metrics there, like turnover, and all that, whatever. But I'm like, I'm having a hard time to pinpoint exactly what's the problem, right? So what I would love for you to do is tell me like most common ones you see happening, like a blind spot, that I'm not even aware that was there. Like if you have some like one or two examples, like something that happened,
Yep.
and you're like, oh
Yep.
my God, that was it.
Yep. So I recently was working with a client that had a lot of turnover in management. And so, if you've got management leaving, what are your other workers doing? What are your other employees doing? There's no stable leader, right? So the owners are not, there. They own other businesses. They're not in their business day to day. That's what their managers, GMs, and everybody's for, right? So figuring out, okay, well, in short answer, you all don't have a leader. There's nobody running things from the top. So you've got people that don't fit the culture anymore, don't, believe in the mission of the business. So, and that's a problem. So my initial thought is, okay, let's clean house. Let's clean house and start over. Because at this point, you can't keep putting a band-aid on something. Like you've got to, let's just do it. Rip the band-aid off and let's just clean house and start from scratch. Hire your ideal employee. And so that's what we did. That's what we did. So
Okay.
it's sometimes if you're an owner and you're not in your business day to day, you can't see that. You see things are happening and there's problems, and you can't keep people, or people stop showing up for work, or they call out a lot, or it's turnover in your management. It's, how do I stop it? What do I do? Because it's going so fast. And at the end of the day, you're just you're drinking water out of a hose pretty much, right? And you can't take a step back and really figure out, okay, what's step one? Like, what do I even do? So you bring somebody in from the outside, it's very obvious to me what's going on, but it's hard if you're sitting in there day to day and trying to figure out what's going on. You don't think, you're too close to it, right? So it's hard to see specifically and then come up with a plan, because you're like, yeah, but this and but this and but this. It's like, hold on, step one, go back to basics. Like step one, let's just clean house and start over. That's gonna, that's gonna be really hard, but it'll be worth it.
Okay. Okay. Bad Pedro steps in. That's my alias. Okay. He's like a difficult client. Okay. So
Okay,
Bad
great.
Pedro is like telling you, hey, Kirstin, I know exactly what's the problem, need help. They are underperforming, whatever. Okay. Problem. Insert problem. Turnover, blah, blah, blah. You step in and I'm like, yeah, you got to fix this. Thank you. You're going there. And you're like realizing that Bad Pedro is actually the problem. It's leadership, right? But Bad Pedro just hired you, Kirstin. Okay. Here's the paying customer, paying client. It's like the team is the problem, but you realize I'm the problem. So how to navigate first that conversation, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm imagining that potentially happen because you're nodding like
Yep.
yes.
Oh yes. I am
So
literally
please
have a client in my mind that I am that this happened about a year
walk us
ago.
through. I would love to know how you handle that type of situation.
So my discovery call is very important. So usually I'm able to sift out issues, right? So bad Pedro, you and I are having a conversation. Typically, I'm going to sift that out and decide not to work with you. If you can't be, if you're not open to listening to what I'm, my expertise, right? So a lot of times the bad Pedros, think they know everything. And if you're reaching out to me, great. That's step one. But are you going to implement what I'm going to tell you? Right. So if they want to pay me to do an audit, fine. My report's not going to change. If bad Pedro's the problem, I'm going to tell you you're the problem. But hey, here's the solution. Right. And there's a whole way of saying it based on different personalities. Right. So I'm going to get to know you a little bit better and know maybe how to try to get through to you in a different way than, other people have tried. Right. So that's kind of fun for me, is figuring out how to really have you listen, not just hear me. Right. So yeah. So either way, I get paid and I'm going to tell you in a really nice report that you're the problem. And here's how we can fix
Politely
it.
tell me, hey Pedro.
Yeah. Bad Pedro, you are the problem, sir. So,
Oh my God,
you
bad
know,
Pedro. He's terrible.
and then and then figure out, give him implementation on how to mitigate it. Here's how we can fix it. That you want to be successful, you want your business to be successful, and that's how you talk to business owners too. It's as one myself, you want your company and your business to be successful. You don't want to close your doors. You don't want to have to, file bankruptcy or whatever, right? So you've reached out to me as the expert in this area. Let's fix your problem. Let's fix it, right?
Mm.
And so if they're open to that, and I'm not afraid of a little, butting heads, that's fine. Um, because sometimes feedback is hard to hear. Especially if you're completely blindsided by that you're the problem, you're blaming everyone else, it gets a little tough. I mean, I've had conversations, and it's really been eye-opening to some individuals, that really didn't realize that they were having such a negative impact on their own business. So, but then you have those clients, that just don't care. That's you're wrong. It's never, bad Pedro. It's never bad Pedro's fault. And so usually if I sift that out in the discovery call and they still want to pay me for a report, sure, fine, you're going to pay me pretty much to tell you that you're the issue, and here's how we can fix it if you want to move forward. But if not, then you're just
Hmm.
going to keep in this cycle. but I do pick and choose who I work with.
Okay. Good. Now, appreciate the insight. Now, you mentioned something that you pick and choose who you work with, and you also pivoted when you left that former job you had, and you went from part time to full time in your own business. And you mentioned mortgage, right? Paying bills and all of that. So there is a topic that I really like to talk with you just to get the mindset behind it. It's about pricing, but not necessarily hard numbers. Okay, Kirstin, it's more about the mindset behind it. Like, for example, it's for the coaching industry, I feel like it's very a self-worth path, and
Yes.
you're trading your time for dollars and all that, what that entails. And sometimes I see a lot of coaches out there offering free work, and they're not even landing that type of stuff because there's scarcity mindset. They're trying to get some testimonials to get going and all that. So the pricing thing, I would love to understand, how do you think about it today? And were there any lessons along the way that shaped how you landed where you are, considering all the bills we have to pay, and now you're selecting clients, right? That's a journey that I'm hearing. So please walk us through that.
Yeah. So initially, one of the biggest pieces of advice that I heard was, you cannot trade your time for money. So you can't put your worth in an hourly component, or billing hourly or whatever, right? So because something that's going to take me, I don't know, 30 minutes to do could take somebody else 2 hours, right? Like, you're paying for my expertise, you're not paying for that time. And so that's what I struggled with when I was doing pricing. What is worth my time, right? What is worth my expertise? So shifting that mindset from, well, here's my hourly rate if you want me to recruit, or here's my hourly rate for consulting. No, it's, here's a flat rate for what I'm going to do, project based, right? So taking the mindset away from the hourly and, okay, well, but in your own mind, how you can figure out your pricing, you have a number in your own mind that you're like, okay, this is going to be worth my time, right? But you don't share that number. So you figure out the kind of work you're going to be doing, the kind of time that it's going to take. If you have to do research, what does that entail? And then you pick your flat rate and you say, this is my rate for XYZ of what I'm going to do, my
Mm,
deliverable, right? And typically, they say always have a tiered pricing. So have your, cheaper price, your middle, and then your expensive one, because typically people are going to go with that middle one. It's psychology or something. So just like how you end your pricing in a 7 or a 9, like psychology, it's some kind of, people are more willing to buy from you if it's, I don't know if you've heard that or not. That's, in some of these business podcasts that I've listened to, people talk about that. But that was a big shift. Not doing it hourly, figuring out what is going to be worth my time, flat rate. So am I coming in and doing workshops and teaching? Am I consulting and coming in and doing a huge, overhaul of the whole hiring process? It just depends. So that's how I come up with my pricing.
yeah, that's a classic one. Since we're talking about Devil Wears Prada, it's just like that popcorn example, right? You have the small bucket, the middle bucket, and the huge one, and you're like, "What's
Yep.
the best deal that I can come up with?" And it's never the small one, right?
Or
So they,
at the movie they had the purse popcorn holder. So like just for Devil Wears Prada, right? So
oh
it
my
was,
God, okay,
you had to get
wow.
that, right?
I didn't went there. I mean, in Brazil, I think they had this in Brazil, but I didn't watch the movie, the
The
second
second one.
movie, right? Yeah, I
Yeah.
watched the first one. Oh, that the purse, you had to buy the purse. Like I
You
have
have
to,
to.
right?
Have to.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
It's the whole experience.
yes. Wow. Love it. Now, I'm curious, shifting gears for a second, right? Talk about future a little bit, where are you taking all this? Looking ahead, where do you see the business going?
So I would love to branch out and offer people that were in the same situation that I'm in, teach them how to do what I'm doing. Start their own business doing recruitment. There's a lot of money in recruiting, especially if you're doing it on your own. So, helping new business owners figure out, how to legitimize a business, come up with a name, from step one. I've been there, I've done it, since 2019. It's, and just give back in that sense to where, hey, you don't have to slowly die and stay in corporate recruitment. Now, if you want to and you have the stability and the insurance and all that, great. That would, a stable paycheck would be wonderful. But for me, it's my freedom that I will never negotiate ever again. Being a business owner is hard. I will never say that it's not, but the opportunities that I have, because I have that flexibility, I'm able to spend more time with my kids, who are 3 and 5. It works for me. So if there's anybody out there that wants to start, with that safety net, like I did, and then work their way to being full time in their business, I would love to be able to teach that and give back in that sense. So that's something that I'm going to do, and would love to branch out a lot more nationally. Because I feel like I can help companies, all over, all sizes. So you've got people in your companies, you've got employees, you've got people problems typically. So those would be my ideal clients. But yeah, and then continue to help the job seekers, giving some advice. I do host workshops so I can reach more individuals, and I don't charge as much because it's virtual. And plus, if people are looking for a job, they're not going to have a lot of expendable cash. So I want to, have that in mind. So I will do that, or I'll actually do complimentary ones as well. I'll throw those in there maybe once a quarter or twice a year.
Mm. I'm thinking about your entire journey, right? How does make so
It's a
much
lot.
sense? No, about the helping other people that went through exactly what you went through. I'm picturing if you didn't had your part-time business, I mean that would be a problem, right? Because you are able to hit that on full gas and just take off, and now you're pretty much settled. But if you didn't have that, and I'm thinking right about how you're trying to serve past or potentially past Kirstins that didn't actually open shop, and when they hit a pivot, what's next? So I love that. That's very interesting.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I'm glad that I did that. That's probably what actually got me laid off or fired. They probably figured that out. But I wasn't really hiding it that well. So I don't, but I paid my car off. I paid some credit cards off, while I had that safety net that was paying, the house bills. So it was great until all of a sudden, bye bye stability.
right.
And I had already, like you said, yes, it was a lot easier because I was already out and networking and, doing business development. So I had partners I could reach out to. One in particular, I call her my lifesaver, Megan. So she has a staffing agency and just so happened to get a big client that needed recruitment consulting. And so it was perfect timing, right? And it just solidified this is what I'm supposed to do, right? This is what I'm supposed to do. So that helped and carried me for the first 6 months. So during that time, I was doing more business development, getting more clients. So then you have residual income coming in, and that's all it is. It's just it's a game. You're kind of just you're going and you're going, networking and selling yourself and your expertise to the right people, getting introductions to the right people, getting in the right rooms. I did a lot of room wasting when I was
Hmm.
starting out, but it's if you can kind of sift through all of that and really fine tune your ICP, then you figure out what room to be in and where that ICP is sitting.
Mm.
And so, yeah, I mean, I will never say it was easy, but it did help me, because typically, I mean, you can make quite a bit of money. You're a corporate recruiter, you're getting a salary, right? But every position you fill in the recruitment world, the fee structure is typically on average about 20% of the first year's salary. That's the fee to finding a candidate. So, for numbers' sake, if you're filling a position that's $100,000, 20% of that is $20,000. So someone is handing you $20,000 to find this position, to find this person. You find the person, here you go. Boom, 20 grand.
That's simple.
So I mean, and I know that sounds nice, but you've got to have the clients, of course.
Hmm.
But I mean, you can very easily make a pretty comfortable living, off of doing that. So I don't
Interesting.
just do that, as I've explained. I do a few other things too, but yeah, I would love to do that.
Okay. Now, first of all, shout out to Megan, right? A lifesaver. So, yeah,
My
there's that.
lifesaver, yep.
The lifesaver. Now, whenever we're aiming towards something new, next chapter, always something we're refining, right, in the present. So what are you currently trying to improve or tighten up in your business right now?
So I mentioned being in the right rooms. So that has taken me a long time to figure out because I have molded and transitioned and really ironed down my ICP, right? So it started off as purely candidates, but it has evolved into working directly with companies, doing recruitment, doing consulting, teaching them how to hire, workshops, leadership. I do a annual conference every year for leadership, and so it's changed, it's adjusted. So I've had to adjust and figure out, okay, I need to pivot, and that's honestly what business owners do and entrepreneurs. You pivot. Something's not working, you go this direction. So that's not working, go this direction. What has been super helpful is making connections with people that can introduce me to my ICP, to my people. So it's getting in the right room, right? It's not going and running around to all these networking groups. I mean, you can network yourself right out of a business, right out of a company, right? Because you're not in the right room. That's not your client. That's not your paid client, right? So for me, if I'm in a room full of coaches, I'm going to talk about my offer to, hey, let me teach you how to be me. Let me teach you how to, not me per se, but what I've done, because I've done it. I have the blueprint for it, right? But if I'm in a room full of companies, that's what I'm going to talk about, right? I'm not going to go into, oh, I do yada, 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 coaching and candidates and resumes. No, no. You got to be specific and know your audience, but be in the room that you want to do. So, like, I'm not typically in the rooms with candidates and coaches as much as with companies, because you've got to figure out what makes the most sense. This is your business, your livelihood at the end of the day. Where are you going to get the most, bang for your buck?
Mm, interesting. Okay. Now, let's get a little bit on a sci-fi territory real quick. Okay. Let's pretend we have a time machine in front of us. Okay. And we have one stop. You're going to be able to pick that stop. Okay. Either it's when you started the business, when you had your job, or it's when you pivoted and you left corporate and you went full-time. So 2 options. And I want you to go back in time, considering you have that possibility, to give yourself one piece of business advice you wish you knew when you started, okay? That you know now. Why would that be?
That's hard. That's hard because each piece of my journey has taught me something. So I don't necessarily want to take any of those pieces away because I feel like it's part of the journey. You got to put your time in to get to your destination, right? So I don't know if I would, to be honest. The only thing really sticking out to me is figuring out the main offer, which is coming into companies, teaching them how to hire better and how to keep their employees, right? So working with companies and businesses, refining that sooner, maybe refining my offer to come in and do the audit, and then provide packages on, if you want to continue the relationship, here's where we can go from here. But like I said, every step has taught me something, either about myself or about business. I'm constantly learning. So it's hard for me to have that ability to do that, because if I give myself that piece of advice, is that going to hinder me from learning something else along the way?
It's almost, I'm picturing you going back in time, giving the piece of advice, and you're like, nope, I want to figure it out. I need to go through the journey, right?
The hard way, right? Figure
exactly.
It out the hard way.
Love
and I just think the lessons are in what's hard. If everything was easy, it wouldn't be worth it, right? Like, you got to go through the ebbs and flows in order to make it worth your while.
Yeah, it's like when we're driving, right? We never remember the green lights. It's always the red ones, and we stopped, right?
You're
It's
like,
like we
oh
just
man,
take for granted. Oh, it landed. Great. Next. And then you have a problem or an obstacle or whatever, a challenge. You're like, oh, yeah, that was part of my story. Right. It's something like
yep,
that.
yep.
Okay. Love that. Now, if someone listening wants to connect with you or follow your work, okay, Kirstin, where can people find you and connect with you? And by the way, we're going to have all the links in the description, but the best way to find you for those who are listening.
Email, reach out to me directly. My email is my first initial, which is a K, and then my last name, Purcell, Purcell, at heels.com.
Okay. You know, there were certain parts of this conversation that really stood out to me. Let's go back to the origin story. I love the fact that you mentioned that you were not prepared, even though you had your business as a part-time basis, but being open about your own struggles, right? Being open about and owning your story. Like you're not trying to pretend you're someone here you're not. I was like just trying to figure out stuff. I love that. The vulnerability piece. I think it's very important for a coach. Okay. That's one. Also, I'm a kind of a crystal bro too. So when you mention everything happens for a reason, I felt like a sign. Sometimes I feel like that too, right? Sometimes it's almost like the universe is pushing us into do something. You can call it whatever. You can call it faith. You can call it it's just something that needs to happen and we're pushed into doing that. Okay.
Right.
So I'm right there
Not
with you.
having an option. Just saying,
Exactly.
nope, you're supposed to be doing this, so I'm going to pull the rug out from under you and force you to do it sooner than you're ready, and you're just going to figure it out.
Exactly.
I did.
I'm
still figuring it out. I will.
We all are. We all are. Nobody's perfect. That's the thing, right? Now, moving forward, also when you sniffed out bad pager in the discovery call, right? So interesting because it always goes back to me. I'm a coach too, right? So it always goes back to me on distant language. Whenever someone's like, they are doing this, they have a problem. Dude, you're the leader. It's your problem, okay? You're the one that needs to handle it. So not owning, I think that the language is something that really tells. At least on my experience, is like when people are like, not just being a know-it-all, but like it's not their problem. It feels like they're not having that problem. It's someone else's. So there's that. And last but not least, I would say the hourly component you mentioned. I did that too, and that like I was being treated as a commodity,
Yes.
like they're comparing my fees to cleaning lady, dentist, lawyer, whatever. Makes no sense at the end of the day. And it always made me feel weird inside in certain aspects, which was, for example, if I spend 10 minutes more with them, should I charge them more? Or if I wrap it up early, am I owing them 10 minutes? It gets weird because the transformation doesn't happen when the clock hits the 60-minute mark, at least on my perspective, right?
Yes.
So this was just my long-winded way of saying, Kirstin, that I appreciate what you do and I appreciate you being here and sharing so openly today. It was great having you.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a lot of fun.
That's it for this episode. This episode, as well as this podcast, was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help business owners elevate their business to 6, 7, and 8-figure years, all without burning out. If you're looking to grow your business, as well as get the time freedom that you are looking for, visit us at joinpurplecircle.com and see what we can do to help you and your business.